Time to finish up and button up that Matchless Spitfire 15. This is the Matchless special design, which I believe is pretty much a greenback, and it did not have much low end in the small cab, and didn't really have much high-end extension, really forward in the mids and upper mids. On the right, the shockingly orange G12 CS, which weighs slightly more. I think it's got a slightly bigger magnet. It should have a lot more low end, more balanced highs, more balanced mids rather, and a very smooth high end due to the smooth cone. So in addition to changing the speaker, I'm going to be changing the taper and response of the tone pot in the amp, because it very narrow margin of useful range in stock form. It needs a bit more tweaking for the customer's liking. So let me get the speaker installed so that I can do all my testing through the new speaker. All right, so I've got it out of, it's not plugged in or anything right now. I just want to check the tone circuit. So right now I've got it fully counterclockwise, and we've got from lugs 1 to 3, the value of the pot. Sorry, it's hard to get this because there's some paint on things. 0.928, it's a 1 meg pot. I suspect it's audio taper, just too much of a value for the sounds the owner likes. Let's see here, with it halfway up, 73K. Is that halfway up? Yeah, just about. All the way up. Yeah, so it's a roughly 10% audio taper pot. I had thought it was linear, but a smaller value, but no, it's too much. I'm setting it to 10 o'clock here, which is the range about as bright as the owner was wanting to set it in use. And that value at 10 o'clock is actually about 33K at 10 o'clock where he liked it. He was often playing it down at 9 o'clock, and that was 18.5K, and at noon it was right about 80K. Yeah, a little less than 80K. So 1 meg audio taper, and it's everything he wants to use is bunched below 10 o'clock, and then it quickly goes very bright, and there's not much difference from 1 o'clock up. So we're going to change out this 1 meg audio taper pot for a 10% 250K audio taper pot, and that means at about 2 o'clock-ish it will be at about 100K. At noon it'll be about 25K. So everything that's around 9 o'clock now will be at noon. Everything that's at 11 o'clock noon will be closer to 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and you'll still get quite bright. It just won't get as bright. And this original PEC pot will be returned with the amp. So let me undo these two connections and cut through the silicone and put in a different pot, and life will be good. All right, you might hear a little bit hum because I'm sitting with the pickups a foot or so away from the power transformer. I now have my 335, which is not too dissimilar from his 340, though his is brighter. I might check with the SG as well. And I'm got the channel volume set, where is it? About 930, which is where he was running it in most of that video the other day. And the tone is now at noon. The master volume's all the way up. This is with the G12 CS. If I turn the tone down slightly till about 11 o'clock, it's where it was about 8:30, almost 9 o'clock, where he was spending a lot of his time. If I turn it down, it'll do the stereotypical jazz kind of thing that the pickup, the tone on the guitar can contribute as well. If I turn it up to like 3 o'clock, which would have been painfully bright before. It's quite pleasant if I go all the way up. still quite nice. The speaker needs to break in a little bit. Let me switch to the SG. While SGs are not known really for being jazz guitars, the bridge pickup in my SG sounded a little closer to the bridge pickup in his 340. And I'm going to do some more playing and let this speaker get some break-in time before John gets to hear it. Maybe he'll grace us with some real playing with the real mic, so you can see what this really sounds like, because you're just getting an approximation with the lav mic, either way here or the phone mic in the previous video. Let me switch guitars. All right, let's see. The tone is all the way up. Bridge pickup on the SG. All right, that's very promising. It'll be up to John's ears to tell me if he likes this, but I want to let the speaker break in a little bit more. When you have a 15-watt amp into a 75-watt speaker, it's not doing much excursion at that clean. And the way speakers work, they get better and they have less resistance to excursion as you play higher volume. So I will do some higher volume playing on this. I'll probably put a loop on and let it play for a while, as much as I can stand, to accelerate that process. But that'd be too much for the lav mic and wouldn't really tell you guys anything. Let me show you one thing that's not problematic, but something I'm aware of, I'm gonna make John aware of, and I'll explain what I'm talking about to you. Well, as you can see, the tone knob sits closer to the chassis. You know, it's much closer. There's not that gap, which means that the tone knob is closer to the chassis than the other knobs. That's because the PECs that they use were really long bushing and long shaft pots that they physically cut. They come much longer than this, like this long as they come from the factory. And they cut that off and deburred it a little bit. Now I can get this exact pot in a 250K audio taper and cut it, and it'll be exactly like the others, and it'll move this knob out exactly the same as the others, but that's like a $30 pot, $18 at the cheapest, I think, depending on prices. And for a tone circuit in an amplifier, there's no advantage to a 2-watt PEC versus this half-watt alpha that I had in stock. So electronically, it's already there. If he loves the sound of the amp, and this is all perfect, but this bothers him, I will be glad to change out the pot. I suspect that John will say, that sounds great, works great. I don't care about that, no one will notice. But if he ever sells this amp, these are the parts I changed. And if anyone ever wants to put them back and have it back to 100% stock, they can, or they can have it done. So this will be included in a Ziploc bag, you know, these 4 components, along with the original Matchless speaker. So while John owns this amp, and it could be the rest of his playing career, it could be another 6 months, up to him. It can sound like he wants it to. And if he wants to sell it and someone wants to put it back to how it was, it's fairly simple to do. So I think this is a reasonable solution. And again, I'll be glad to get the 250K pot and cut it down like the others. I don't think on stage anyone's going to notice, and electronically it's fine. So that's where we're at on this. I'm going to put this all together because the tone of the cabinet right now is severely front ported with the chassis not in place. So the chassis needs to be in place for me to really hear what the cabinet sounds like with the new speaker in it. And it'll have more bass once this is in place because of that reason. Open back cabs are fun. All right, I'm doing this with the phone mic because that's what was used in the first, the tone consultation video where you got to hear John play the various cabs and speakers. So This is the Matchless Spitfire 15, the tone at noon. The tone at noon now is equivalent to the tone at 9 o'clock before, which is about where he was using it. So he's got a much wider sweet spot with which to play. And you don't get drastic changes from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock like you used to get. And it's the G12CS speaker. And indeed, it does have a little bit more room, a little bit more bass, rather, a little bit more low-end response than the Greenback did in this cab. It does not have as much low-end response as this speaker would have in a larger cab. Out of curiosity, you see that Deluxe Reverb cab there, the blonde one to its right. I put the Greenback in there temporarily, and I'll let you hear that. The Greenback in the larger cabinet has a lot more low-end than the Greenback had in that cabinet, the Matchless cab. And if I were to put that G12CS in the Deluxe Reverb cab and play the Matchless through it, it'd have a lot more low end, because even though the speaker that's in there now has more low end than the Greenback did, that very small, shallow 1x12 combo form factor does limit the low end. But here's where it's at now. For fun, let me hook up the Greenback that's in the Deluxe Reverb cab. I'm not really a jazz player. You know, if you threw a real book in front of me and gave me 15 minutes to warm up, I could hack my way through some basic stuff, but you know, John's a real jazz guy, and I'm not. But I think he's going to be very happy with it. So, you know, it's a good sound. It's a very small form factor for a lot of small gigs. And if he needs to have a larger sound, well, I happen to know he's got a very nice old Deluxe Reverb that I did for him, which has the the ET65 in it. He also has the ET10 in his Princeton. So he's got a range of nice small amps. He likes the voicing of this one. He was concerned that the changes would scoop it out and make it Fendery. It's still much more mids focused due to the nature of the Matchless circuit. And I think he's going to be very happy with it overall. But if he were to play this on a larger stage and wanted this sound with a little more oomph, he could use the Deluxe Reverb as an extension cab, or get another 1x12 extension cab and get more, a little more headroom out of the entire thing and more low end. And if you heard any sympathetic things ringing out, it's not the tubes, it's not the cab, it's various chassis on that metal rack just to the right of the shot here. But I think he's going to be very happy. So let's move on to that Deluxe Reverb right there. That was the one that came in with the absolutely destroyed grill cloth. And I've already done the work on the amp itself, but the grill cloth and baffle have been changed out for some mojo tone. I've got the ET65 put in there, and then I'll transfer the logo and put it all together.